fulfillment of desire, there should be entrusted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the nicest solution. Whether one wants to marry or one wants to remain brahmachari or whatever it is, we should actually leave the fulfillment of the desire to Krishna's will. And then when Krishna fulfills that desire, then Krishna will always fulfill the desire beyond our expectations. By our own endeavor, if we want to fulfill our desires, then we may or we may not fulfill our desires. And even after fulfilling our desires, there is no guarantee that we will be satisfied. There is no guarantee that we will be satisfied. So therefore, whatever is our desire, we should learn to entrust such desire to Krishna. And if it is a spiritual desire, after entrusting the desire, we should actually work on proper guidance. If it is a material desire, we should be a little bit careful of it, but still it should be entrusted to Krishna. It should be entrusted to Krishna. That's the way we should try to fulfill our desires. So our job is to focus on progressing in Krishna consciousness. That's what we should focus on. And we should always focus on that part, that how to progress in Krishna consciousness.
Similarly,
okay.
If you act in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the Lord and is representative, then everything is sanctified. This is the indication given to Kardama Muni, who acted on it and therefore received the most excellent wife and child, as will be disclosed in later verses.
Yeah. Okay.
The first principle to be understood is that this world is a product of the Supreme Will. There is an identity of this world with the Supreme Lord. This identity is accepted in a misconceived way by the impersonalists. They say that the Supreme Absolute Truth, transforming himself into the universe, loses his separate existence. Thus they accept the world and everything in it to be the Lord. That is pantheism, wherein everything is considered to be the Lord. But those who are personal devotees of the Lord take everything to be the property of the Supreme Lord. The difference between the impersonalist and the personalist is that the personalist does not accept the separate existence of the Lord. The impersonalist does not accept the separate existence of the Lord, but the personalist accepts the Lord. He understands that although he distributes himself in so many ways, he has his separate personal existence. There is a nice example regarding the sun and the sunshine. The sun, by its sunshine, is spread all over the universe, and all the planets rest on the sunshine. But all the planets are different from the sun planet. One cannot say that because the planets are resting on the sunshine, these planets are also the sun. Similarly, the impersonal or pantheistic view that everything is God is not a very intelligent proposal. The real position, as explained by the Lord himself, is that although nothing can exist without him, it is not a fact that everything is him. He is different from everything. This means that everything should be considered a product of the Lord's energy, and therefore everything should be employed in the service of the Lord. One's energy should be utilized for one's self-interest. That is the perfection of the energy. This energy can be utilized for real self-interest if one is compassionate. A person in Krishna consciousness, a devotee of the Lord, is always compassionate. He is not satisfied that only he himself is a devotee, but he tries to distribute the knowledge of devotional service to everyone. There are many devotees of the Lord who faced many risks in distributing the devotional service of the Lord to people in general. That should be done. It is also said that a person who goes to the temple of the Lord and worships with great devotion, but who does not show sympathy to people in general or show respect to other devotees, is considered to be a third class devotee. As long as one is not compassionate to people in general in his devotional service to the Lord, he is a third class devotee. The first class devotee gives assurance to every living being that there is no fear of this material existence. Let us live in Krishna consciousness and conquer the nations of material existence.
It is the duty of a sannyasi, therefore, to go and awaken the forgetful souls with enlightenment of their eternal relationship with the Lord and to engage them in devotional service. The devotee should show mercy to the fallen souls and also give them the assurance of fearlessness. As soon as one becomes a devotee of the Lord, he is convinced that he is protected by the Lord. Fear itself is afraid of the Lord. Therefore, what has he to do with fearfulness? To award fearlessness to the common man is the greatest act of charity. A sannyasi or one who is in the renounced order of life should wander from door to door, from village to village, from town to town, and from country to country, all over the world as far as he is able to travel, and enlighten the householders about Krishna consciousness. A person who is a householder but is initiated by a sannyasi has the duty to spread Krishna consciousness at home as far as possible. He should call his friends and neighbors to his house and hold classes in Krishna consciousness. Holding a class means chanting the holy name of Krishna and speaking from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. There are immense literatures for spreading Krishna consciousness, and it is the duty of each and every householder to learn about Krishna from his sannyasi spiritual master. There is a division of labor in the Lord's service. The householder's duty is to earn money because a sannyasi is not supposed to earn money but is completely dependent on the householder. The householder should earn money by business or by profession and spend at least 50% of his income to spread Krishna consciousness. 25% he can spend for his family and 25% he should save to meet emergencies. This example was shown by Rupa Goswami, so devotees should follow it. Therefore, his oneness with the Lord is that he is interested in the one interest of the Lord. The Lord wants every living entity to always think about him. Krishna wants everyone always to think of him. Everyone should always offer obeisances to Krishna. This is the will of the Supreme Lord, and devotees should try to fulfill his desire. Since the Lord is unlimited, his desire is also unlimited. There is no stoppage, and therefore the service of the devotee is also unlimited. In the transcendental world, there is unlimited competition between the Lord and the servitor. The Lord wants to fulfill his desires unlimitedly, and the devotee also serves him to fulfill his unlimited desires. There is an unlimited oneness of interest between the Lord and his devotee.
It's a very nice purport because in this purport, Prabhupada actually brings out the duty of a sannyasi. He brings out the duty of a householder, what is a householder should do, and also the general understanding of what Krishna consciousness is. So it's a long purport, but in that purport, Prabhupada actually more or less gives the essence of the Krishna conscious philosophy. Not only the essence of Krishna conscious philosophy, but also uh, uh, he gives the essence of how to practice Krishna conscious philosophy in different ashrams, mainly the two important ashrams, which is the sannyasa ashram and the householder ashram. Everyone has the duty to spread Krishna consciousness. It's not that sannyasis have the duty. Everyone has the duty to spread Krishna consciousness. Sannyasi has the duty to travel and spread Krishna consciousness all over the place, everywhere, to various places. The Grahastha has a duty to spread Krishna consciousness around him because sometimes he cannot travel so much. So therefore, he has to actually spread Krishna consciousness around him. So both these things, Prabhupada makes it clear. And also then Prabhupada actually gives some very important principles of Krishna consciousness. These are very important things Prabhupada discusses in this purport. So the first thing Prabhupada is discussing is about, in the beginning of the purport, about the difference between the understanding of the impersonalist and the personalist. The personalist accept or understand the Lord in three phases, which is Padantita Tattva Vidastattva Vijnanamadvayam, Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan Sadyate. So when you try to understand, or when we try to understand the God in these three phases, Brahma, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, then we can actually properly resolve all the contradictions which is seen in the scripture. There may be some contradictory statements in order to explain the supreme absolute truth, which may be given in the scripture. The Mayavadis, they take one aspect of that statement as true, and the other aspect of the statement they generally take as denoting Brahman in Maya. Like for example, in Ishopanishad it is stated that he walks and he does not walk. They say not walking is true, but walking is Maya. So that's their explanation. That when Brahman walks, he is in Maya. When he is not walking, then it is true, because according to them, Brahman is all pervading. But Krishna also says Tadbhavato Anyanatyeti Tishkat in Ishopanishad. It is said about the Supreme Lord, Tadbhavato Anyanatyeti Tishkat. So then Prabhupada actually translates that he is the fastest runner, that nobody can beat him in running, because if you run to reach a place, the Lord is already in that place. You can never be in any place before the Lord is there. So how it is possible? It is if we understand that the three aspects of the Supreme Lord, which is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, and how the Lord actually expands himself in this material creation as Mahavishnu, as Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, as Shirodakashaya Vishnu, and also his bodily effulgence, Brahmajyoti. If we understand all these things, then we can actually understand that how all these contradictory statements can be true, how all these contradictory statements can be true, without having to assign one aspect of the statement of to say that, oh, walking means that he is in Maya. No, why he should be in Maya when he is walking? Why it should be, why we should decide, okay, this is Maya and this is not Maya. Why we should decide like that? Why can't both be not Maya? Why can't both be true? Because the very nature of Supreme is that he resolves all the contradictions by himself or within himself. All the contradictions are resolved. So that's the reason why we need to understand Bhagavatam presents the Supreme Absolute Truth as a non-dual substance which is understood in three phases, which is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Then it's okay. Then we can understand that all these contradictions are how they are resolved. If he is walking, then it is Bhagavan. If he is all pervading, then he is Paramatma or Brahman. So these things are all different parts of the absolute truth. So initially Prabhupada explains that, and later Prabhupada actually explains about the important aspect of Krishna conscious service, which is very important to understand. So first thing is saying that the Lord is unlimited, so his desire is also unlimited. So therefore the service of the devotee is also unlimited. This is something which we should understand. Sometimes devotees get so attached to certain service, and then when they, for some reason, they have to lose that service, then they become so frustrated, and they think that, oh, this is a service I was so attached to. Now this service has been taken away from me, and now I'm bereft of service, and I will not. What I will do, what kind of service I will do. So they get so much into complication or so much frustration. But Prabhupada is saying here, the service of the devotee is also unlimited. We have unlimited service in this talk. Unlimited services. Our situation is that we have so many services and so little people to do those services. So therefore, being assigned to do a particular service or not being assigned to do a particular service is not of consequence at all to a devotee. When a devotee is mature, it's not of any consequence to the devotee. Okay, if you're assigned to do a particular service, that's the need of the time, you simply do it. You simply do it. And that service comes with whatever needs of the service is there. Just utilize those needs of the service and just do the service. And then there is no longer the requirement of that service, then there's always something else to do. There's always something else to do. One need not be afraid, oh, now my service is gone, what will happen to me? Sometimes uh, we see that devotees are so insecure when it comes to their service. They feel that, oh, sometimes their service might be taken away. मेरा service चला जाएगा. So they get very perplexed with this thought, oh, how can my service go away? But why we should be perplexed? If we understand the nature of Krishna consciousness, we will never be perplexed, because here it is said that the service of the devotee is unlimited. Is unlimited, and there is the Lord and the devotee there in competition, because the Lord wants to fulfill his desires unlimitedly, and the devotee wants to serve him to fulfill his desires unlimited. So there is always opportunity for this. So that's an important thing to understand, that that the unlimited nature of service within the Krishna conscious movement should be understood nicely, and a devotee should never get discouraged if he has to move from one service, or if he has been asked to find some other service. We should never be discouraged, because it's just Krishna's opportunity for us. Krishna wants us to engage in different things. So Krishna is giving us different opportunity. Happily, we should move from one service to another service. We should not get so attached. And when we are doing a service, we should do it with all sincerity. We should do it with all sincerity. Sometimes I have seen that the sincerity is also is also attached or coming up with some ownership mentality. Ownership mentality. That they think that I am the owner of this service. So I should only do this service, or I am the owner of this service. So when that ownership mentality is there, as long as the service is there, the ownership mentality looks very good. It looks very good, because there is a lot of enthusiasm to do that service. There is a lot of drive to get various things in that service done because of the ownership mentality. But for some reason, if the service has to go away, and if one has ownership mentality, then the devotee goes through a lot of difficulty, because of that ownership mentality which he has developed towards that service. The art of doing service, yoga karmashu kaushalam, is explained by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, that how we should be detached while we do our services. It's a very important thing that if we understand the unlimited nature of Krishna's service, we will always remain detached, and we will always remain happy in whatever situation we are. So therefore, this purport is a quite interesting and important purport.
Prabhuji, I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, how to develop, like quite often what happens in my case is that the services which bring me in comfort zone, I have special liking for such services. And other side, the services which require lot of extending nature and lot of dedication and commitment and taxing. So there is no liking for such service or appreciation for it. So can you please give some understanding so that I can come out of it?
See, if you want to advance in Krishna consciousness, you should always do Krishna consciousness outside your comfort zone. Little bit outside your comfort zone. Because if you do that, if you do too much outside your comfort zone, then you may not be able to tolerate it. You may just break down. So one should always take manageable risk in Krishna consciousness. One should never be comfortable in Krishna consciousness. We should never think that we should do service in comfort zone. What happens is that if you do service in comfort zone, then you can never see Krishna's reciprocation. Because you are just comfortable, Krishna will leave you comfortable. Okay, you are comfortable, you be comfortable. Krishna will just leave you, okay. ठीक है, तुम बहुत comfortably काम कर रहा है, बैठो comfortably काम करो. Uh, you cannot see Krishna's hand extending towards you if you don't extend yourself to Krishna. I read previously one purport that how Krishna is very clever. It's a second canto purport. I think I read in the class. Krishna, he wants to see how painstaking is the devotee in his service to fulfill the orders of the spiritual master. So therefore, anybody who has some desire to advance in Krishna consciousness, they should come out of this. It's a kind of stupor. It's a kind of easygoing mentality. That's why Prabhupada says in that purport that an easygoing life and advancement in Krishna consciousness is there. Somebody posted. That's the same purport. Let's see. An easygoing life and attainment of perfection, transcendental realization cannot go together. The Lord is more clever than any living entity. Therefore, he wants to see how painstaking is a devotee in devotional service. It's a very small purport. I think it is 2.9 point something. It's a very small purport. You should just print that purport and then you should always carry it. Whenever you want to see, do services, which is 2.9.24. Thank you very much. So whenever you want to, whenever you have this idea that I should just do service within the comfort zone, you should just take 2 minutes to read the purport. Or whenever you get fried, when you get some service which actually demands you to extend yourself. If you want some enthusiasm, then you should just read this purport. Okay, then you can become very enthusiastic, and then you can actually do your service. But what I have seen in my life personally is that whenever I have extended myself, I have always seen Krishna reciprocate. So that is the biggest reward of extending yourself. When you extend yourself, instantly you can see Krishna reciprocate. Instantly you can feel reciprocation of Krishna. If you don't extend yourself, if you do Chalega Krishna consciousness, Krishna will also give you Chalega mercy. So that's something which you should always remember.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, please read.
There are two kinds of Sankhya philosophy. One is godless Sankhya philosophy and the other is godly Sankhya philosophy. The Sankhya propagated by Kapil Dev, son of Devahuti, is godly philosophy. He divides himself into two different expansions, one called Kala and the other Vibhinnamsha. Ordinary living entities are called Vibhinnamsha expansions, and the unlimited expansions of Vishnu Tattva, such as Vamana, Govinda, Narayan, Pradyumna, Vasudeva, and Ananta, are called Swamsha Kala. Swamsha refers to a direct expansion, and Kala denotes an expansion from the expansion of the original Lord. Baladev is an expansion of Krishna, and from Baldev, the next expansion is Sankarshan. Thus, Sankarshan is Kala, but Baldev is Swamsha.
But anyway, there are no difference between all of them because they are all the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here, Brahma gives the example of one lamp being lighted from many lamps being lighted from one lamp. Okay, anyway, please read.
Similarly,
Further.
there is no difference between the immediate expansion of the Lord and his secondary expansion. The Lord's names are considered in exactly the same way. Since the Lord is absolute, his name, his form, his pastimes, his paraphernalia, and his qualities all have the same potency. In the absolute world, the name Krishna, the transcendental sound representation of the Lord. There is no difference in potency between his qualities, name, form, etc. If we chant the name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, that has as much potency as the Lord himself, there is no difference in potency between the form of the Lord whom we worship and the form of the Lord in the temple. One should not think that one is worshipping a doll or statue of the Lord, even if others consider it to be a statue. Because there is no difference in potency, one gets the same result by worshipping the statue of the Lord or the Lord himself. This is the science of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, because they are all Krishna's energy. Then Krishna can turn any energy into any other energy. So Prabhupada gives the example of an expert electrician turning the electrical energy for cooling or heating. It's a very good example Prabhupada gives, and he has used this example a few times. That how an expert electrician is able to use the same electric energy for cooling or for heating. So same way, the Lord's energy, either it is used as external energy, which is the burning energy, tapakari, it burns, or he can use his energy as internal energy, which is haladi, which is very cooling, which is a pleasure-giving potency, because they are all his potencies. So same way, he can actually convert matter into spirit and spirit into matter. He is completely competent of doing that. Therefore, that's why he is called the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Archa Vigraha, Prabhupada many times mentions that it is not representation of Krishna. It is Krishna himself. There is no difference between Krishna and Krishna's deity form. They are the same. He is Krishna himself. Just like there is no difference between Krishna and Krishna's name. Krishna is same as his name. And whatever Krishna does, Paritranaya Sadhunam, Vinashaya Chatushtadam, Dharma Samsthapanarthaya, all these functions, Krishna's name also does. So whatever Krishna is able to deliver, Krishna's name is able to deliver. So within Krishna's name is contained his form, his qualities, his pastimes, and his confidential associates. All of them are there. So therefore, one should sincerely take shelter of chanting the holy name, because that is the primary process of self-realization in Kali Yuga. And one should measure one's advancement in Krishna consciousness by seeing how much one is hankering to increasingly chant the holy names. That is how one should measure one's advancement in Krishna consciousness. That by doing all these services, whatever services we are doing, various services we are doing, we are reading Bhagavatam, we are doing so many practical services like cleaning the temple or selling books or by doing various festivals, serving the deity, by serving Vaishnavas, by serving the order of the spiritual master. So many different things we are doing. But all these things are meant to lead to one thing. What is that thing? Meant to give us Namaruchi. They are all meant to give us Namaruchi. That we should increasingly have the desire to increasingly chant the holy name. If that is there, then we are progressing in Krishna consciousness. If that is not coming, if that increasing hankering to chant the holy name is not coming, then we should start examining our motives in engaging in various services. That what is our motive in engaging various services? Because when you actually water the seed, the plant is supposed to grow. But if the plant is not growing, then there is all likelihood that the weeds are growing. So therefore, one should become very careful. One should see that am I getting more and more interested in chanting the holy name or not? If not, then why not? That has to be analyzed. Why not? That what is my motive in doing various services? Why the different services is not taking me towards Namaruchi, Namagane Sadaruchi? It is said that why it is not taking, why I am averse to chant the holy names except my prescribed rounds. So sometimes devotees come up with various doubts. They say, oh, I don't have time to chant extra rounds. It's okay, but you have so much time to chant. Whether you count them or rounds, if you are able to count them as rounds, it is very good. It's nice. But if you're not able to count them as rounds, but still, you should chant. You should chant. We should have that habit of chanting the holy name as our primary service, which naturally fills in whenever we want to whenever we want to, whenever we don't have any other services. Uh, okay. Uh, so that should be the mood. That should be the mood. Uh, okay. Now there are two questions. We can take a dietary break, and then I will deal with both the questions. There are two questions which are sent directly to me. Uh, I will deal with both the questions after the dietary break. So it's 12:02. We'll join back at 12:07. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So I have a series of questions on the chat box. Check. We see in the history of ISKCON that many devotees extended themselves but burnt out and even left ISKCON. Presently, some devotees extend and later get burnt out. So what is missing? Yeah, we go back to the same old discussion of being in mode of goodness. That's what is missing. If you extend yourself in mode of passion, you'll get burnt out and then you'll run away. That's why I keep repeating, like a Gisa over record, I keep repeating that please raise yourself to mode of goodness. Don't be in mode of passion. If you be in mode of passion, then this kind of things will happen. That you will extend yourself without discrimination or without properly thinking how much you can extend yourself, you'll extend yourself, and without any solid basis of Krishna consciousness, simply out of some temporary kind of inspiration, which is given by mode of passion, you'll extend yourself, and then later you'll say, oh, ISKCON utilized me, ISKCON is so bad, that is all these kind of things that people start saying. Instead of being grateful that they were given opportunity to serve in ISKCON. Sometimes we don't understand these things. Okay. You mentioned that ownership of services should to be avoided. We see in some cases of advanced devotees, they are attached to particular seva. They don't want to share it with others. Madhavendra Puri, Hanuman, Anantacharya, mentioned their property. Yeah, there are different stages of devotional service. In different stages of devotional service, then different things are applicable. In the neophyte stage, one should be ready to do the needful. This is how one should be. One should not say that, oh, this service I like, this is my service, etc. Because you don't even know what is your service, what is your spiritual situation, what is your swarupa, and in that swarupa, what kind of service you are offering to the Lord. All these people whom are mentioned here, they are all aware of their swarupa, and in their swarupa, they have to offer a particular type of service to the Lord. They are fully aware of that. So therefore, they are quite particular about the type of service which they want to offer to the Lord. In case of Anantacharya, he was specifically asked by the Supreme Lord, by his spiritual master, to offer a particular kind of service to Lord Balaji in Tirupati. So therefore, he was quite intent in fulfilling the order of his spiritual master, which constitutes the basic qualification of a good disciple, that he should be intent in fulfilling the order of the spiritual master. So they all have solid reason why they are like that. But in our situation, when we make a preference for a service, it is not because we are aware of our spiritual situation, our Swarupa in the Goloka or Vaikuntha, and then we are making preference for that service. Sometimes it is not even the instruction from our spiritual master. It is simply because we ourselves have mentally got attached to some service, and then that mental concoction that this is my service, or the ownership mentality of enjoying the puja labha pratishtha which comes from that service, it actually is the cause of not giving up the service. Or sometimes this insecurity that, oh, if I give up this service, then what will happen to me in ISKCON? This kind of some unfounded insecurities are there, because people don't understand that there is unlimited service in ISKCON and nobody can take our service away. These kind of things. So there may be some reasons like this. So that's the thing. Some counselors discourage brahmacharis from preaching, saying that preaching is for sannyasis only. In the purport, we say sannyasis and grahasthas should preach. LC said that everyone should preach. Yeah, everyone should preach. But a Kanishta Adhikari is more interested in preaching than practicing. A Madhyama Adhikari is more interested in practicing than preaching. A Uttama Adhikari is perfect in preaching and practice. So at least we should be at the level of Madhyama Adhikari, which means that we should be more interested in practicing than preaching. That should be there as our normal setting. It is not that a Madhyama Adhikari does not preach, but he understands that if he has to preach, and if that preaching has to be effective, he has to practice. If he doesn't practice, his preaching is not going to be effective. So he is not so much interested in giving a nice class and everybody clapping, okay, very good, you gave nice class, and then he thinks, okay, now I'm great man, I'm able to give great class. It's not like that. It's all Kanishta mentality. So the Madhyamadhikari's interest in practice is based on his desire to preach. He understands that a strong practice is the foundation for good preaching. So therefore, he is naturally interested in his practice. So that is the basic premise we should follow. Whether it is brahmachari, sannyasi, grahastha, vanaprastha, brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra. This is the basic premise we should follow. Sometimes a particular counselor may discourage a brahmachari from preaching because he may simply see that fellow is a Kanishtadhikari and he is just getting carried away by preaching. So he may tell him that, oh, first of all, you please put your head into practice, then you can preach. So unless we know the specific situation, specific thing, there is no general rule that brahmacharis cannot preach. There is no general rule. There are many brahmacharis who are great preachers. I think Pune itself has many star brahmacharis who are preaching, and they are all shining like anything in the sky of the preaching sky of ISKCON. They are all big stars. So there is no doubt that brahmacharis can preach. There is no iota of doubt about that. But a particular counselor may discourage a particular brahmachari from preaching because he may be too much of a neophyte or he may have too much of Kanishta mentality. Just because he is preaching, he may think that he is a great man or things like that. So he may get discouraged from preaching. So that may be a very particular case. So the general rule which should be followed is that we should be more interested in our practice than preaching. Because if our practice is solid, then our preaching will be proper. That should be the general rule which should be followed. Okay. Okay, please read the purport.
One word in this verse is very significant. The Lord is stated here to be Pratyag Akshaja. He is imperceptible to material senses, but still he can be seen. This appears to be contradictory. He is called Adhokshaja, which means that he cannot be seen by the material senses. Akshaja means knowledge perceived by the material senses, because the Lord is not an object that can be understood by speculation with our material senses. He is also called Ajita. He will conquer, but not one can conquer him. When one's senses are thus purified, then one can see, one can understand, one can hear, and so on. The purification of the material senses and perception of the transcendental form, name, and qualities of Krishna are combined together in one word, Pratyag Akshaja, which is used here.
So when the senses are saturated in Krishna consciousness, then when the senses are saturated in Krishna consciousness, then one will be able to see the Supreme Lord. Okay, so that's the point. So that's what is said as Pratyek Akshaja, because the senses get completely Krishnized. They are no longer retaining their material nature. So they are completely imbued in Krishna consciousness. Then the senses become perfect. Okay, so there is one more question. It says that up to what extent liking and disliking should be considered in nature of service? Please explain in light to the principle of surrender. Liking and disliking should be considered in the beginning stages, because in the beginning stages, one's nature should be dovetailed in Krishna consciousness. That's how it should be done, because they come with a package in the beginning. They come with the whole package of dualities. When a devotee enters into Krishna consciousness, he is filled with dualities of this material life, and he comes with his package of dualities and karma vasana. And according to his karma vasana, he has built an image, a false image of himself, which has been projected to him by false ego. So he is thinking that this is what I am. Just like I was thinking that I am an engineer when I came to Krishna consciousness. And I was thinking that I should approach Krishna consciousness like an engineer. So this is all a very wrong mentality. But at that time I was like that. But whatever, since Krishna consciousness, the services in Krishna consciousness are unlimited. So an expert devotee is able to see how to engage a person's particular propensity, material propensity, and then engage that very propensity in the service of Krishna. So that is the beginning. There's no wrong. There's nothing wrong in that. But as one progresses in Krishna consciousness, as one becomes serious in Krishna consciousness, one reads Prabhupada books, one takes initiation, and then one wants to take Krishna consciousness as a lifestyle. That one accepts Krishna consciousness as life and soul, as accepts a lifestyle. Then the principle of surrender becomes prominent than one's own so-called propensity. So then the so-called propensity is not so much important. It may be there in the background for some time. It may linger in the background for some time. As long as the anarthas are there, it may just linger in the background for some time. But if when one starts understanding that it's not so much about what I like and what I don't like, then one accepts that one should practice Krishna consciousness beyond the mental platform. So when one accepts this fact that I should practice Krishna consciousness beyond the mental platform, then surrender or the need to surrender becomes prominent, and all these so-called propensities, they take a backseat. Then one just duty bound. One may like to apply oneself in a particular service, or one may not like to apply oneself in a particular service. As in the sense of duty, when a service is allotted to him, he simply does it, as long as he has the skill sets to do it. If he doesn't have the skill set to do it, he may go and say that I don't have the skill set to do this service. I may have to acquire the skill set, or he may give a more realistic view of what could be expected out of him in doing such service. And then if people still say that no, there's nobody there, you please do this service, then he is simply quite happy to do such service. Sometimes people tell me to sing. I always tell them that I don't mind singing, but you please take care of others who are listening. And they say, no, it's okay, you sing. I just sing. That's it. I don't, because if that is a need, if there's nobody to do, then what to do? Just sing, that's it. Try to sing try to put your heart into the singing process, and then try to sing as much as you can. That's it. Then after that, just leave it to Krishna, and then it happens. So the idea is that you should be ready to do needful. One should raise oneself to that stage of being ready to do the needful. Okay, please read. So now the Lord, he spoke, he gave benedictions to Maitreya, so to Kardama, and then the Lord is now going back. So as the Lord is going back, then in Garuda, the wings of the Garuda are flapping, and then one can hear Samaveda from the flapping of those wings. Okay, please read.
In the Vedic literature, it is stated that the two wings of the transcendental bird Garuda, who carries the Lord everywhere, are two divisions of the Samaveda known as Brahat and Rathantara. These Samaveda utterances are automatically heard by the devotee when another great devotee of the Lord, Garuda, flaps his wings. Only siddhas or persons liberated from material bondage can become devotees. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Anyone who is engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service is already liberated from the influence of the modes of material nature. Kardamuni was liberated soul who saw the Supreme Lord in person, face to face. There was no doubt that he was liberated, And thus he could see Garuda carrying the Lord on the way to Vaikuntha and hear the flapping of his wings vibrating the sounds of Hare Krishna, the essence of Samaveda.
So here, Prabhupada makes a very interesting point. He says only siddhas or persons liberated from material bondage can become devotees. So we become a devotee only when we reach that stage of being liberated from material bondage. Till the time we are trying to practice. And Prabhupada says, one who is engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service is already liberated from the influence of the modes of nature. So these are all important statements. So this is what is the expectation from us, that when we practice devotional service, when we come and take up devotional service, when we dedicate ourselves to the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, this is what is expected from us. That it should not be some theory. Oh, okay, theoretically I understand this. Theoretically we understand when we join the movement and when we are given training in the beginning, when we are reading some books as new bhakta or as new grahasthas who join the movement. That time we theoretically understand these things. But when we are engaged in the service of the Lord, and especially when we complete Bhakti Shastri is meant to bring us to Brahminical standard. The whole purpose of Bhakti Shastri is to bring people to mode of goodness. That's how Bhakti Shastri should be studied. Bhakti Shastri should not be studied as some exam, you write it and then you get some mark and then you put it on the wall, some certificate you get, you can put it on the wall and then show everybody I became Bhakti Shastri. You should not study Bhakti Shastri like this. Studying Bhakti Shastri means that coming to mode of goodness. That's what the purpose of Bhakti Shastri is. Prabhupada wanted Bhakti Shastri to be the benchmark for giving second initiation. Means that one should have Brahminical standard. One should live a life of Brahminical standard. So, in order to live a life of Brahminical standard, one should scrutinizingly study the books of Bhakti Shastri. They should actually understand what Krishna wants, what Prabhupada wants, what our spiritual master wants, what is the responsibility of a sadhaka in raising oneself to mode of goodness, and simply come there. That's what Bhakti Shastri is all about. Bhakti Vaibhav means that it's like sannyas. You should get ready to renounce. So this is Bhakti Vaibhav. When you study Bhakti Vaibhav, when you finish Bhakti Vaibhav, you are more or less ready for sannyas. You are a sannyas candidate. Whether you take sannyas or not, that doesn't matter. But you should have that mood of being able to detach yourself from the attractions of the material world. That mood everybody should have. For that, we need not have the stamp of sannyas. That somebody may take, somebody may not take. That's all very institutional. That's all somebody may take, somebody may not take. But responsibility of learning, Shastra means that one should take responsibility of meeting the expectations of learning Shastra. One should not just learn Shastra as an intellectual exercise. अरे मेरे पास थोड़ा दिमाग है मैं इसको थोड़ा रट कर सकता हूँ ये मैं एग्जाम लिख सकता हूँ ये थियोरेटिकली थोड़ा ऐसे लिख दूंगा फिर कमाल हो गया अभी हम क्लास खत्म करके ऐसे लिख के एग्जाम लिख के मार्क लेके बैठ जाए It should not be like that. We should never approach Shastric study in that mood. And that's why I was telling Igoresham Prabhu that it's very difficult for me to actually deal with Shastra like finishing the syllabus. Never in my life I did this. Now I'm teaching, I always get into this, that I need some extra class, I need some extra hours, some questions are there, some answer is there. Always I get into this. And I will always be like this one. I don't think I will ever change myself. Because for me it is more important that that students understand at least something, in spite of all my deficiency in explaining. Somebody should, when we study Shastra, there should be some understanding of what we are doing rather than to ये लेसन फिनिश करो, दूसरा लेसन फिनिश करो, तीसरा लेसन फिनिश करो, हो गया हो गया, जाके सो जाओ. We are not studying in some mundane college to do this kind of things. So sometimes that's the reason why I don't even like this type of courses in that sense. But Prabhupada wanted us to do these courses, so we should do these courses. But we should do it in the way Prabhupada wanted us to do it, not in the way of doing some academic course. We should never do this like that. Prabhupada wanted us to study these courses because he wanted us to actually develop a certain mentality or certain consciousness by the time we finish these courses. उसका ध्यान रखना चाहिए. That should always be in our mind, how it can be done. Okay, please read.
Hare Krishna. Kardama underwent austerities to gain the causeless mercy of the Lord. And when the Lord arrived there, he was so compassionate that in pleasure he shed tears, which became Bindu Sarovar.
The Lord shed tear seeing Kardama. So he was such a nice devotee. So then that became Bindu Sarovar. Okay, please read.
Just as drops of perspiration which fell from the toe of the Lord became the sacred Ganges, so teardrops from the transcendental eyes of the Lord became Bindu Sarovar. Both are transcendental entities and are worshipped by great sages and scholars. The water of Bindu Sarovar is describing here as Shivamrita Jala. Shiva means curing. Anyone who drinks the water of Bindu Sarovar is cured of all material diseases.
Yeah, it's Amrita. Amrita means nectar. Nectar means that will deliver eternal life. Eternal life is only available in the spiritual world. So if you have to go to spiritual world, then you have to be cured of material disease. All of us need to be cured of material disease for us to go to spiritual world. So that's why it's called Shivamrita Jala. Means that it cures the material disease. Okay. Now there is nice description of the place of Kardama, that where he was staying.
Prabhu?
Kardama's place is
Yeah,
ashrama. Yeah.
where is this Bindu Sarovar? This place only in India or where?
It is in India. Actually, when we were discussing in Delhi, the same discussion came up, and one devotee told me where it is. I will ask him. He's in Punjab. I'll ask him. We were having a discussion about the location of this place. He told me that this is in this particular place. It is somewhere. It's not in Himalayas. It's somewhere in the is Maharashtra or somewhere like that. So I will ask the devotee again. He told me exactly that this is there. This place. I will ask him again,
Okay,
and I
Prabhu.
will get back.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, please read.
Trees which do not bear nice fruit or flowers are considered impious, and birds which are very nasty, such as crows, are considered impious. In the land surrounding Bindu Sarovara, there was not a single impious bird or tree. Every tree bore fruits and flowers, and every bird sang the glories of Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Ram
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Hare
Ram
Hare.
Ram, Hare. So we should have nice trees whenever we make gardens. We should have pious trees, which either has some fragrant flowers, or it should have some good fruits. That kind of trees we should always have. Okay, then there is a whole description of this place, which was so nice and so beautiful. So much of biodiversity was there around the lake of Bindu Sarovara, like animals, birds, trees, plants. Always we find that in Bhagavatam, such beautiful descriptions are there of places of natural beauty, because as long as we okay, Bindu Sarovar is in Gujarat. This is what Krishna Rupa Mataji is saying. Did you go there, Mataji? Have you been there?
Yes, Prabhuji, because Ahmedabad is my birthplace. So we've been to Bindu Sarovar with my family, Prabhuji.
Dekho. So you have authentic answer from the person who belongs to that area. So this is in Gujarat. Okay, good. Yeah, I remember something like Gujarat, Maharashtra, something like that. You was telling that area. So
Yeah,
Gujarat,
there
okay,
are
good.
four more other sarovars are there. That is Man Sarovar, that is there in Tibet, and Pushkar Sarovar is in Rajasthan, and Narayan Sarovar, another Sarovar is there in Gujarat also, and there is one Sarovar in Karnataka also called the Pampa Sarovar, Prabhuji.
So this is Sarovar Gyan. Thank you very much, Mataji, for such elaborate, nice Sarovar Gyan. So there are different Sarovars which we heard today. Okay. So now this uh, okay. Let's see. Sarvalakshana Prabhu, he says that even near Ananta Vasudev temple, there is Bindu Sarovar. Where is this Ananta Vasudev temple? Which location? So there is Bindu Sarovar in more than one place. Possible. Sometimes uh, the spiritual places get also uh, multiplied in different places. It's possible. Like in Tamil Nadu, in one place, in one Divya Desam, there is place where Gajendra Moksha is there. But Gajendra Moksha happened in, okay, it's in Bhubaneswar. Gajendra Moksha happened in higher planetary system. But there it was reenacted because the devotee wanted to see Gajendra Moksha. So the Lord reenacted the entire Gajendra Moksha there. So it's sometimes possible. Okay. So yeah, we should read this translation. We cannot leave this. So please read the translation.
Entering that most sacred spot with his daughter and going near the sage, the first monarch, Swayambhu Manu, saw sage sitting in his hermitage, having just propitiated the sacred fire by pouring obligation into it. His body shone most brilliantly. Though he had engaged in austere penance for a long time, he was not emaciated, for the Lord has cast his affectionate sidelong glance upon him, and he had also heard the nectar flowing from the moon-like words of the Lord. The sage was tall, his eyes were large, like the petals of a lotus, and he had matted locks on his head. He was clad in rags. Swayambhu Manu approached and saw him to be somewhat soiled, like an unpolished gem.
Yeah, so this is how he was sitting. And Prabhupada says that this is the description of a brahmachari yogi. So this is the description of brahmachari yogi. Our brahmacharis are supposed to be shining like this. All our brahmachari yogis should be shining. Of course, they should not dress in rags. Prabhupada said that our devotees should dress like gentlemen. So they should be nicely dressed, but they're also supposed to be shining. That's why we always see that our brahmacharis are shining in white, and sometimes and seniors are shining in saffron because of their long practice of brahmacharya. All of them shine. Here it is compared to an unpolished gem. Okay, please read the purport.
Here are some description of brahmachari yogi. Those engaged in brahmacharya cannot sleep until 7 or 9 o'clock in the morning. They must rise early in the morning, at least 1.5 hours before the sun rises, and offer oblations. Or in this age, they must chant the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna. From the very features of the sage, it appeared that he had undergone great austerities. That is the sign of one observing brahmachari, the vow of celibacy. The word Vidyuttamanam indicates that the brahmachari feature showed in his body. Stignapangha Valokanat means that he was fortunate enough to see the Supreme Lord face to face. He looked healthy because he had directly received the nectarian sound vibration from the lotus lips of the personality of Godhead. Similarly, one who hears the transcendental sound vibration of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, also improves in health. We have actually seen that many brahmacharis and grahasthas connected with the International Society for Krishna Consciousness have improved in health and a luster has come to their faces. It is essential that brahmachari engage in spiritual advancement look very healthy and lustrous. Even if a gem just taken from the mine looks unpolished, the luster of the gem cannot be stopped. Similarly, although Kardama was not properly dressed and his body was not properly cleansed, his overall appearance was gem-like.
The Prabhupada says it's essential that brahmacharis engage in spiritual advancement look very healthy and lustrous. So, a lot of instructions for brahmacharis, lot of instructions for brahmacharis in this purport. And Prabhupada also says in this purport that from the very feature of the sage, it appeared that he had undergone great austerities. That is a sign of one observing brahmacharya, the vow of celibacy. So, the enjoyment of brahmacharis is austerity. Austerity is the enjoyment of brahmacharis. So, brahmachari means that they should have the natural tendency to enjoy austerities. They should take various austerities. And that should be their enjoyment. So, when brahmacharis are like that, then definitely brahmacharis look very lustrous and shining because of the different austerities they take. So the monarchs bowed down, and the sage received him with honor. So after receiving the sage's attention, the king sat down. Then he spoke to him. Okay. So this is a conversation. So we need to read the translations. Please read the translation, and then we can read the book.
The tour you have undertaken, O Lord, is surely intended to protect the virtuous and kill the demons, since you embody the protecting energy of Sri Hari.
So in this conversation between Kardama and Swayambhu Manu, we clearly understand the relationship between Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. We also understand the duties of Brahmanas and the duties of Kshatriyas, and we also understand the interdependence of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. So these are all very important lessons in managing a spiritual organization like ISKCON. How devotees doing various services, they should actually cooperate and interdepend on each other, and they should have mutual respect for each other's services and recognize the importance of each other's services. This is a very, very important lesson which we learn from this wonderful conversation between Kardama and Swayambhu Manu. Okay, please read the purport also.
Kshatriyas are allowed to commit violence in that way because violence for a good purpose is a part of their duty. In this age, it is very difficult to find such a head of state who is expert in killing the undesirables. Modern heads of state sit very nicely in their palaces and try without reason to kill innocent persons.
Yeah, so innocent persons get killed in scores in Kali Yuga, and they also parallelly there's a big movement which is actually telling that capital punishment is inhuman and it should be abolished. So this is all the craziness of Kali Yuga. Scores and scores of people get killed. Innocent people, they get killed due to violence, they get killed due to negligence, they get killed due to hunger, malnutrition, so many different things, innocent people get killed. But when a criminal has to be killed as per the law, then all these human rights things come up in Kali Yuga. That's why Kali Yuga is such a messed up situation that people don't understand what is right and what is wrong. Okay, please read the translation.
Prabhu, one question.
Yes.
Whom do you categorize within ISKCON in the Kshatriya category and Brahmin category?
whoever is doing administration, they are doing the Kshatriya duty. And whoever is establishing the spiritual standards, they are doing the Brahminic duty. They are doing the Brahmana duty. Sometimes a person may be doing both. He may be establishing the spiritual standard and he may be engaged in administration also. But then it should be understood that he is doing both these duties of Brahmana and duties of Kshatriya. This is not very uncommon in Islam because we actually follow, we don't strictly follow Varnashram, we follow the Varnashram. So sometimes we may find that a person is doing both the duties. But when he is doing Kshatriya duty, then he should act like or he should take advantage of the system of how Kshatriyas operate. And when he is doing Brahmanical duties, then he should act like a Brahmana. So that is very important. That distinction we should keep between these two duties. When he is doing both duties, we should keep that distinction between these things. Okay.
One more question one devotee wants to ask.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, we see in the case of Arjuna, that time, Krishna was telling that it is his prescribed, he has to fight. And that's how he engaged in fighting and, he was performing devotional services, remembering the Lord. So I met one particular boy, so he had a very deep inclination of fighting. Like he was telling that when he actually gets into a combo, when fighting and all that, and he sees the blood while fighting, then only he gets kind of, that he's feeling satisfied. So he was actually very sincere boy, serious in Krishna consciousness. He wanted to join also, but he was having that the spirit which I felt like how maybe Arjuna and Bhima, that kind of devotees. So now within ISKCON, if somebody shows this kind of interest, that he has to actually get into fighting, and when he sees blood, then only he feels satisfied. So now within ISKCON we don't have this kind of, I don't know how to, because now he has to, for career point of view, he has only option of getting into army. So he wants to go, he's very serious and sincere, but he says that, just like somebody is a Brahmana, he has to teach. So he feels that he's actually Kshatriyas, he has to fight. But he has, at the same time, he wants to practice Krishna consciousness very seriously. So what do you say, Prabhuji, about it?
So point is that Bhima and Arjuna are not like what you described as fighters who can be satisfied only by seeing blood. That is not the description of Bhima and Arjuna. They are Kshatriyas, and they know that violence is required at a certain point. According to Kshatriya Dharma, there should be violence at a point. And when violence is, especially in war and in situations, when violence, especially in war or different situations, violence has to be practiced. Then they understand that violence has to be practiced in certain. So it's that their default situation is that unless they see blood, they are not satisfied. So this person is having this kind of mentality or inclination as per your explanation, that unless he sees blood, then he cannot be satisfied. Of course, he can go and join in the army. So is there a problem with my voice? I saw two messages that my voice is breaking.
Yes, Prabhuji, there is a breakage in your voice, Prabhuji.
Okay. Just hold on. Maybe some little disturbance with the. Hare Krishna, is it better now?
No, not yet.
No, Prabhuji.
उसका चार्जिंग खत्म हो गया.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Okay. So I was just saying that Bhima and Arjuna are not like their default setting is that they have to see blood, then only they will be satisfied. They are not like that kind of Kshatriyas. When there is a need, they want to fight, and in the process, sometimes they take some vows which are quite terrible. But it is not that Bhima is looking for violence. So there's one character who is like that. That is Hiranyaksha. He is looking for violence. He is like going around and asking violence. He is saying that where is violence? Where is violence? Let somebody fight with me. So he is like that. Hiranyaksha is like that. Bhima and Arjuna are not like that. They are not looking for violence. So that's one point I want to make it clear. So that's one part. The other part is that for this particular person, if he is a sincere devotee, then if he is saying that unless I see blood, I cannot be satisfied, then maybe he requires some help. So that's one part. Second part is, yes, of course, if he is so intent in joining army, and he can always join army. Let him go to army and let him become devotee and let him preach in army. We need people to preach in the army. Let him do some service in the army and let him preach in the army. It's not a problem. We have a devotee in Mayapur. He was previously in Air Force. He became devotee when he was in Air Force. And then now, for a long time, he has been preaching to devotees in Air Force and Army. He is doing very good army preaching. He brings scores and scores of army wallahs to Mayapur every year. He runs a camp for them, and then he preaches to them. And because he himself is an army wallah, then all the army fellows are very interested to hear from him and to understand Krishna consciousness from him. So that's also possible that he can go to army and he can if he's so intent, he can join army and then he can practice Krishna consciousness and he can preach in the army. And after some time, when his that khoon ka pyas is satisfied, then he can come out of army and then he can still keep preaching to the army. So he will get a good army preacher. I don't know if Pune, a lot of army is there. So you can utilize him to preach to all those army wallahs in Pune and Bombay and things like that. Always possible. Prabhupada says that the jurisdiction of Krishna consciousness is everywhere. In the seventh chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in one of the purports, Prabhupada makes this statement that the jurisdiction of Krishna consciousness is everywhere. So everywhere we can preach Krishna consciousness. Why we should leave the army? Let him go to army.
One thing what happened in this boy's case, that he did not actually so much went actually in that direction of army when he was having that age. Now he's become 25, 26 and he's feeling that guilt why he did not do that. So now he's also having thought process that whether in ISKCON he will get such kind of, where he could get some engagement. So mainly, if suppose he doesn't get army situation, if he doesn't get army situation,
let him become head of NYCC. Put him into security of NYCC. Let him start as a security guard. Let him stand in NYCC as a security guard. And then slowly let him train himself with the security. So he can get all the physical training and all those things. And then slowly he can grow into some security head of NYCC or something like that. And then he can at least have this tendency of, he can have the satisfaction of protecting the temple as a Kshatriya. He can have the satisfaction of protecting the temple. So legitimately he will be able to practice fighting skills, practice shooting skills and all those things. Legitimately he will be able to do, and that will satisfy him. In Mayapur, we have devotee securities who know how to shoot, who know how to fight, and the devotee securities who actually go through this security drill some security consultants, they come and train them. Every month or every 2-3 months, they come and train them. We also have the rapid action force from military staying in Mayapur permanently because we are in Bangladesh border. And they interact with our security, and our security, we are always thinking how to utilize our security in such a way that they are good deterrent for terrorist attack and things like that. So that is also true for all temples. They are all soft targets for various miscreants. ISKCON temples are soft targets. So therefore, well-trained Kshatriyas are required to actually protect the temples. So he can take up that role. So possible. He can wear nice military-like uniform and stand as security for the temple. Okay. This is translation.
When necessary, you assume the part of sun god, the moon god, Agni, the god of fire, Indra, the lord of paradise, Vayu, the wind god, Yama, the god of punishment, Dharma, the god of piety, and Varuna, the god presiding over the waters, all obeisances to you, who are none other than Lord Vishnu. Since the sage Kardama was a Brahmana and Swayambhu was a Kshatriya, the sage was not supposed to offer obeisances to the king because socially his position was greater than the king's. But he offered his obeisances to Swayambhu Manu because as Manu, king and emperor, he was the representative of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is always worshipable, regardless of whether one is a Brahmana, a Kshatriya, or a Shudra. As the representative of the Supreme Lord, the king deserves respectful obeisances from everyone.
So even though Kardama was a Brahmana and Manu was a Kshatriya, Kardama considered Manu to be worthy of respect because as Kshatriya class, he represented the Supreme Lord. So therefore, and also he was a great devotee, he was an established devotee. So therefore, he considered himself, he considered Swayambhu Manu as worthy of respect. It's a very important point for our institution also. It's a very important point. Generally, when people do management services, there's a general tendency to actually look at those people with a little bit of different mentality. Are ye to manager hai. So it is like like a little bit of an untouchable class. Ye to manager ban gaya. Aisa thoda mentality is there. And also there is all this kind of whole understanding around management that okay, it has to be there. It is it's not a very good service and things like that. I would say it's like an unfortunate understanding. It's not a fortunate understanding because managing a spiritual organization is a big austerity, and to take that austerity as a matter of duty is something which it takes a devotee miles out of his comfort zone to do such service. So therefore, there should be some good respect, just like what Kardama is showing to Swayambhu Manu. There should be some mutual respect between those devotees who are engaged in management services and those devotees who are engaged in Brahminical services. There should be a lot of mutual respect. I still remember that when I was in Mayapur management, once we actually had some issue, and then we called a meeting of devotees who are Brahminical, were part of the Brahminical advisory of Mayapur. Panganjangri Prabhu came, Janivas Prabhu came, Bhakti Purna Maharaj came, Solna Japa Swami Maharaj came. So we had an assembly of all Brahmanas together sitting with the management body. And I was especially impressed with the way they dealt with the management body. That so much respect they had. They were all very senior. All of them sitting were all seniors. And all of us sitting were like bachas, some of us were disciples, some of us were seeing them as our great Shiksha Gurus. But the way they dealt with the management body was actually a lesson for me personally. That they actually dealt with so much of respect, even though um, all of us sitting in the management were like uh, uh, like very junior compared to them in terms of experience, in terms of age, in terms of Krishna consciousness. We are all very junior compared to them, but they showed that respect for actually taking that service and doing that service. So that's something which is very important that we should learn in an institution, that how we should respect each other's service. That's an important lesson. We should learn from the conduct of Kardama towards Swayambhu woman. Okay, please read the translation. Oh, time is already up. Okay, we'll stop here. So anyway, it looks like the way we are going to have some extra classes. So how to work out the extra classes, I will talk to Evilasham Prabhu and also to Amshodan Prabhu, because there's also there's a festival season which is onsetting. There's going to be Janmashtami soon, and then maybe before that Balaram Jayanti, and after that Radhashtami. So many festivals coming in line, and there may be many services for all of you who are all quite busy. So therefore, I will have a talk with. Anyway, tomorrow's class will go ahead as we plan, and then I'll have a talk with Viglesham Prabhu and with Vamshodhan Prabhu, and in turn they will discuss with all of you, and then we will come up with some mutually acceptable arrangement for having some extra classes to finish this portion. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Gurudaj Bhagavad Gita, Shloka Bharat Gita,
Hare Krishna, so this is small announcement regarding the examination pattern. Till now we used to have that, we have first 2 weeks of classes, third week of closed book exam, and fourth week of open book exam. So, but I had a discussion with Kaustupru, and then we came with a new thought that we will have first week, second week classes, and exam as well as OBA will be on the, like suppose next month, now this is August, next month is September, it begins on the 1st September is yeah, so if you see the next month, actually it's not visible there. So next month begins on 1st, that is Wednesday. So the first week is one sense available, and our classes will begin on 6th of September. So we will have our closed book exam on, I think so 3rd is again Ekadashi, maybe 4th of September. 2 days before beginning of the unit, we'll have exam as well as closed book will submission on the same day. So it is like we get the 3rd week completely with us, 4th week also one sense we have with us. So in that way we get good amount of time for preparation. Also we can do many other things. We have other sevas also which can be done in a very proper way. So this is a thought we thought of, in a way it can be simplified. Exams on the just 2 days before the beginning of the unit. Unit begins anyways on Monday every time. So Friday before that, whatever Friday comes before that, we'll have exam. We'll tell the exact dates. We'll tell that's there. But I'm just saying the pattern. This way we'll function in this way. We'll get 2 weeks basically. Yeah, we'll get some space to do our things along with that studies and everything. ये जो अनाउंसमेंट ऐसा था कि जैसे हमारा परीक्षा अभी हमारा करंट पैटर्न जो था वैसा था, पहले वीक में और दूसरे वीक में हम लोग क्लासेस करते थे, तीसरे वीक में हम क्लोज बुक एग्जाम करते थे, और चौथे वीक में हम लोग ओपन बुक एग्जाम का सबमिशन करते थे. करंट अभी नया इसके हिसाब से ऐसा हम सोच रहे कि जैसे अगले महीने में सितंबर महीने में जो 1 तारीख को है बुधवार, और अपना क्लासेस चालू होगा 6 तारीख को। तो 6 तारीख से पहले क्लास चालू होने से पहले, कोर्स चालू होने से पहले जो भी शुक्रवार आएगा वो शुक्रवार को हमारा एग्जाम रहेगा और उसी दिन हमारा उसी दिन हमारा क्लोज ओपन बुक असाइनमेंट सबमिट करना है। तो उससे क्या होगा, तो तीसरा वीक पूरा हमको मिलता है, चौथा वीक का भी काफ़ी समय हमको मिलता है जिसमें हम प्रिपरेशन अच्छे से कर पाएंगे और थोड़ा हमारा बाकी भी सेवा होता है उसमें भी थोड़ा, नहीं तो काफ़ी वक्तों को ऐसा लग रहा था, काफ़ी पूरा पैक जैसा फील हो रहा था। तो इसके कारण ये सब नया अरेंजमेंट करने का प्रयास हो रहा है। No, this will happen like this in future. Of course, ये मेनली इसका थॉट है कि अभी जैसे अभी ये फुल फेस्टिवल सीजन भी आ गया, बलराम जयंती है, फिर जन्माष्टमी है, जैसे जिसका कोई ड्यूटी में सेवा रहेगा, कुछ का ड्रेसिंग में सेवा रहेगा, तो मतलब काफ़ी सब लोग कुछ ना कुछ है किसी किसी का। तो ये जनरल ऐसा पैटर्न रहा तो सबको थोड़ा स्पेस मिलेगा अपनी चीज़ें करने के लिए। तो ये विचार करके ऐसा किया था। मेरे को लगा सिस्टम्स आपको क्लियर है मैं क्या बोला। हरे कृष्णा।